Now I think I could do tons more interviews just because they're normal people.
The people you were interviewing became
More human.
Even though they were just teachers?
Mm-hmm.
So more human than they started out.
Mm.
For this Coetail final project, I've decided to revise our 8th grade oral history unit here at Lincoln Community School. This is only the second year that we've worked on this project, and so it was prime for revision as there were a few bugs from the first year. The unit focuses on collecting and creating stories through audio and photography. We encourage students to experiment with these tools and explore their own creativity. They're tasked not only to collect audio and visual stories, but to research them and create them as well. The Oral History Unit was created as a part of our school's service learning initiative. It's also an interdisciplinary project as students work on various tasks throughout their Humanities and English Language Arts classes. Along with the ISTE standards for students of communication and collaboration, research and information fluency, and technology operations and concepts, we also had the goal of introducing students to the importance of telling stories and recording stories, as well as how history is recorded. And within those ideas, where does perspective...
In my interview, I interviewed someone and I asked them about a major event, and they told me their perspective of it, even though it might have been different for other people.
And bias play a role.
We've learned about questions that you can be asked that are loaded, so maybe asking a question to get an answer that you want, so that's kind of a biased question.
While at the same time developing a sense of community within our school as teachers and students interact in a slightly different format as they conduct the interviews. For the first task, the students first wrote and then recorded their account of a field day activity. Everyone then submitted their own recordings to a Google Drive folder. Then they were able to collect from each other and create their own mashup of the day's events.
House event.
The first thing I heard was kids talking as I walked up to the bleachers.
And a small heart saying, blue and green on the first bleachers, yellow and red on the second. This was because some kids were walking to the wrong bleachers because their friends were there.
Students had a lot of fun with the 1-minute story. Their challenge was to use audio and video to create a story of a space on campus and really think about their mood and the story they're telling.
The playground,
where children can let go, have fun,
and create memories and long-lasting friendships.
like ours.
Students worked collaboratively to begin developing questions for the oral history project. They discussed what they could learn from their friends and teachers, came up with questions, and then peer-edited to decide which ones were the best. In the end, all the questions were put into a Google form and students were allowed to vote. This created a final set of 7 questions that each student would ask in the interviews. Throughout the unit, we had some parallel projects going on. The students were preparing to conduct the interviews with their staff to collect our oral history, but they were also collecting information about themselves that they would end up exchanging with their peers to create stories about one another. It created a little bit of confusion at first, but as we progressed, it started to make more sense to the students, and they've enjoyed the process.
It connected to the interview because the interviews are about their teenage life, and we're mostly all teenagers. So like different things in our community that affect us and make us the person we are. The community plays a big role in like how you were brought up.
When it came time for the interviews, both sides were equally nervous, but they turned out great.
Well, I've always loved music, obviously, because otherwise I wouldn't become a music teacher. But I liked Alanis Morissette. Have you ever heard of her?
No.
I think she's from Canada. She was really big when I was younger. She had a song called Ironic. Isn't it ironic?
Oh.
Don't you think? It's like rain. It's really nice.
And going home and going out and coming back, always with mama's voice ringing in your head, not to be off the track, because So I know my mom really, really was a very key part.
You know, they say that there's certain things that you will remember for the rest of your life. Exactly what happened, exactly what the circumstances were when you heard the news.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is with me. I remember the assistant or the principal coming in and talking to the teacher, and then a teacher announcing to the class that President Kennedy was shot.
Each of the tasks in this project on their own required relatively simple or basic technology skills. However, when we start putting those simple tasks together, we began to push into the realm of redefinition. We had over 40 students working together using MyMaps to create a visualization of where each student working on the project and each staff member interviewed calls home. It also included images of how they see their community, audio of their communities, and of course links to the final interviews. Along with providing an oral history collection open to the public, the interactive site will also allow for commenting and conversation. Additionally, students have continued to take turns explaining their learning and reflecting through our class blog that we've been using all year. Finally, the posters around school will have a QR code that allows access to the interviews instantaneously and in a mobile setting. Some of the major difficulties have been with the storage space for the files that we've created. We decided we needed to ask for a dedicated server space in order to ensure the longevity of our data. We realized last year when we finished that everyone's work was tied to their Google account, so as students come and go from an international school, those accounts go as well. We wanted to make sure that we weren't going to lose everything as students move from place to place. This proved to be a challenge as our IT department created server space for us, but then we ran into issues of access and student access and outside access that are actually still being worked on. Response to the project from my colleagues and peers has been fantastic. Everyone has enjoyed the process of telling their stories and been very complimentary of the way the students handled themselves and asked the questions. Students are still working on their final projects. They're due at the beginning of next week. They've been collecting all the information their peers created and looking at them to create interview questions and then create a story about their peer or their partner. So this will open up a discussion of how history can be interpreted or how information can be interpreted and how sometimes it might be misinterpreted and the story is not told in quite the correct way. As we move past the final stages of the project, there's still some little projects going on. I have 2 students who are excited about redesigning the website for our project. And then we also have some of the posters and things to create to go up around the school. As we've worked our way through this project this year, my colleagues and I have seen how much potential it really has. We've talked about the possibility of creating a sort of production company next year and assigning students different tasks and making it into more of a project-based learning experience as well. Students could be responsible for scheduling interviews, for liaisons with the staff, for publicity, for all kinds of sorts of different things. So we're looking at the options as far as that goes as we move forward. It's been a great learning experience. We've definitely hit some bumps, but we've also had a lot of good times. The kids have really enjoyed it, and we're looking forward to finishing up.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for taking time to interview.
Did you what?
Thank you.
Oh,
yeah, we're done.
Wow.
Thanks so much for your
Wonderful.
time.